No offside from throw-in. If a player gets the ball directly from a throw-in, they can never be offside, even if they're standing miles behind the last defender. While every other restart in football, corners, free kicks, goal kicks, follow normal offside rules, throw-ins exist in their own special bubble. A player can stand right next to the opposing goalkeeper, and as long as the ball comes directly from a teammate's throw-in, they're completely onside and free to score. The rule exists because throw-ins were considered fundamentally different from regular play when football's laws were first written. Since the ball is thrown by hand rather than kicked, and the thrower is standing off the pitch, early lawmakers treated it as a neutral restart rather than an attacking move. Think of it like putting the ball back into play after it went out of bounds. The focus was on fairness and restarting the game, not creating scoring opportunities. This philosophy stuck, even as football evolved and teams discovered the tactical possibilities it created. This creates some genuinely bizarre tactical possibilities that most fans never notice. Imagine your team wins a throw-in near the opponent's goal line, and instead of the usual short pass to retain possession, a striker sprints behind the entire defense and positions himself inches from the goal. The throw-in taker launches the ball directly to him, no deflections, no touches from other players, and suddenly you have a player in the most offside-looking position imaginable, yet completely legal under the laws of the game. It's one of football's strangest exceptions, hiding in plain sight during every match you watch. The fans who don't know the fine print often argue about it, swearing the striker was miles ahead, but the law is crystal clear. This strange rule has confused fans for decades and created some wild moments over the years. It's not cheating or a referee mistake. It's just one of those weird football rules that most people never learn about, sitting quietly in the rulebook until it catches everyone off guard. Flat ball goals are invalid. This rule is simple. The game has to be played with a working ball. If the ball bursts or gets punctured and then goes into the goal, that goal doesn't count. The second the ball breaks, the play is over. Doesn't matter how amazing the shot was, a player could hit the most perfect strike ever, but if the ball pops and still goes in, the ref will cancel the goal. What happens next is quick and easy. The referee gets a new ball and restarts play with the drop ball. Players might complain and fans might get mad, but the rule is clear. The equipment has to work properly, just like the players do. No broken ball goals allowed. Get a new ball and keep playing. This rule exists because a flat or punctured ball behaves completely different than a proper one. It doesn't bounce right, doesn't fly true, and can wobble unpredictably through the air or along the ground. Football demands consistency in equipment, so the moment that ball becomes defective, everything stops and gets reset with the drop ball. It's one of those rules that sounds ridiculous until you think about it. Why should a goal count when it was scored with equipment that wasn't working properly? The ball is just as important as the goalposts, and when either one fails, the integrity of the game goes with it. The rule exists to keep things fair. Nobody wants to see a wobbly, half-deflated ball rolling past a confused goalkeeper and calling it a legitimate goal. It just wouldn't be right to let that stand. In fact, this rule has been around for decades because punctures were once way more common. Back in the early days, leather balls were fragile, and nobody really knew what to do when one split open or leaked air mid-play. Old school balls soaked up rain, got heavy, and seams popped under pressure. Players hated it because the ball would knuckle, dip, or die midair without warning. A shot could start out perfect and then just flop into the dirt. Matches sometimes had to stop several times while someone fetched a replacement from the sidelines. Things got messy quick until the laws of the game started spelling it out clearly. Damaged ball equals no goal. Safety was the biggest concern, since a collapsing ball could twist ankles or hit goalkeepers wrong. Plus, nobody wanted chaos over whether a deflated wobble into the net counted as a goal. The laws made sure referees had zero doubt. These days, punctured goals are rare thanks to modern designs, tighter stitching, and tougher materials. But the rule is still there, ready just in case. The rule also covers mid-play situations. If the ball bursts during a pass, a tackle, or even just rolling on the pitch, play stops immediately. The referee swaps in a fresh ball and restarts, depending on who last had possession. Two players make an offside. Football has spent over a century living with one of its most misunderstood rules. To stay onside, an attacking player needs at least two opponents between them and the goal line, not just one. Most people think beating the last defender automatically puts you offside, but that's only half the story. Usually, it's the goalkeeper plus one outfield player that keeps you legal. The confusion comes from the fact that goalkeepers are almost always the deepest player, so we mentally ignore them and focus on the last defender as the offside line. But what happens when the goalkeeper charges out of his box? Suddenly, those two outfield defenders become your offside markers instead. Picture a keeper rushing forward for a corner kick in the final minutes. Now, the two center backs set the line, not the goalkeeper. This creates situations where a striker can look completely offside to everyone in the stadium, yet be perfectly legal because there are still two players behind him. It's one of those rules that sounds simple, but constantly catches fans off guard when the usual setup gets flipped on its head. The beauty of this rule is how it rewards tactical awareness over assumptions. Smart attackers know they can exploit moments when defenders get caught ball watching or when keepers abandon their posts. Meanwhile, fans sit there screaming at referees for missing obvious offsides that were never actually offsides to begin with. It's a perfect example of how football's laws are more nuanced than they appear on the surface, hiding complexity behind what looks like a straightforward play. Penalty shootouts don't count for stats. When a player scores in a penalty shootout, that goal vanishes from his personal record. He could send the keeper diving the wrong way with a perfect strike into the top corner, but officially, it never happened. The team advances, the trophy gets lifted, but that player's goal count remains untouched, as if the most pressure-filled moment of his career was just a mirage. In the early days of penalty shootouts, chaos ruled the record books. When FIFA introduced shootouts in the 1970s to settle tied matches, nobody had figured out how to handle the statistics. Should those crucial goals count the same as a tap-in from an open play? Fans and officials argued endlessly over whether shootout strikes deserved a place in a player's goal tallies. The debate raged until FIFA finally stepped in and declared shootouts a separate beast entirely, pure tiebreakers that lived outside the normal flow of football statistics. The reason was simple: penalties during the 90 minutes or extra time are part of actual match play, but shootouts happen after the whistle has blown and the game is officially dead. They're not football anymore. They're essentially a specialized competition to pick a winner. So, if a striker buries 5 in a shootout, it looks great in the moment, but his official goal record doesn't change. Some legends of the game learned this the hard way. Players like Michel Platini, Roberto Baggio, and Cristiano Ronaldo have taken part in shootouts that decided massive tournaments. Their goals may have sealed wins or heartbreaking losses, but none of them ever padded the scoring charts because of it. For statisticians, that separation keeps the numbers clean. The biggest reason behind the rule is fairness. Imagine a striker who only racks up shootout goals while another player battles through open play all season. Counting both the same would ruin golden boots, records, and legacies. The game wanted clarity, so it drew the line sharp. Today, the rule is universal, and nearly every competition follows it. Even if a World Cup final goes to penalties, the shootout heroes don't see their career totals move. The glory is real, but the stats stay frozen. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I post videos every week. Pre- and post-game red cards. Referees can hand out red cards before kickoff and even after the final whistle. The moment players step onto the pitch for warm-ups, they're under the referee's jurisdiction. And that authority doesn't end until everyone's back in the tunnel. Got into a heated argument during pre-match stretches? Red card. Threw a punch at an opponent while walking off after a loss? Red card. The laws of the game don't magically switch on at kickoff and off at the final whistle. This creates some truly bizarre scenarios where a player can miss an entire match without the game ever starting, or get suspended from their next match because of something they did after this one ended. Imagine a striker getting sent off during warm-ups for fighting someone from the opposite team. Suddenly, your team's tactical plan gets thrown out the window before a single official minute has been played. It's one of those rules that reminds you the referee's power extends far beyond those 90 minutes everyone focuses on. The weirdest part? These red cards count just as much as ones given during actual play. A player who gets sent off for arguing with the ref after the final whistle will serve the same suspension as someone who got a straight red for a terrible foul in the 45th minute. The punishment is identical, even though one happened during the game and the other happened when everyone thought it was over. Football doesn't care when you messed up, only that you did. Real incidents like Patrice Evra kicking a fan before kickoff or Denzel Dumfries starting fights after the final whistle show exactly why this rule exists. Football is trying to prevent chaos from spilling over when emotions run highest. The message is clear: step out of line at any point from warm-ups to the tunnel walk, and you'll face the same consequences as if you'd done it during the actual match. Minimum player limit. Football has a strict rule about minimum player requirements that's surprisingly unforgiving. If a team drops below 7 players during a match, the referee immediately stops play and awards a 3-0 victory to the opposing team. There's no negotiation, no allowance for playing shorthanded with 6 players, and no chance for a dramatic comeback. 7 players is the absolute minimum. Fall short of that number, and the match ends instantly with a walkover loss. Now, here's where it gets especially brutal. A single team can get up to 4 red cards and still keep the game going, but the moment that 5th one comes out, it's over. This rule exists to prevent football from turning into a complete circus. Can you imagine 6 players trying to defend against 11? Goalkeepers would be sprinting to midfield, exhausted defenders chasing shadows they'll never catch, and the whole thing would become a humiliating disaster rather than a competitive sport. Football draws a hard line here. Maintain some basic structure or we're pulling the plug. It's one of the game's most unforgiving rules, where a single moment of poor judgment can transform any scoreline into an official 3-0 defeat. Real matches have ended this way, and the 2018 clash between Brazil's Vitória and Bahia is a perfect example. Vitória led 1-0 at halftime, but everything collapsed in the second half when Bahia equalized with a penalty. Their players celebrated by taunting the Vitória Ultras, a provocation that ignited chaos. Violence erupted across the pitch. When the dust settled, 7 players had been sent off, 3 from Vitória and 4 from Bahia, including 2 bench players who weren't even on the field. This left 8 Vitória players facing 9 from Bahia. But Vitória's troubles weren't over. A Vitória midfielder picked up his second yellow and was dismissed, followed by another Vitória player who earned his second booking after confronting the referee. With only 6 players remaining, Vitória had fallen below the 7-player minimum. The referee immediately ended the match and awarded Bahia a 3-0 victory, transforming what had been a 1-0 lead into an official defeat. In professional football, there's no mercy. Fall below 7 and the curtain comes down immediately. Passing a penalty kick is legal. You don't have to shoot a penalty kick straight at goal. The rules allow you to pass it to a teammate as long as the ball moves forward and another player touches it before the penalty taker can touch it again. Your teammate has to be outside the penalty area when the ball is struck, then sprint in to collect the pass. Most people think penalties are a one-on-one duel between shooter and keeper, but technically, you could tap it sideways to a teammate who's perfectly timed their run. It's completely legal, just incredibly rare because it requires perfect timing and nerves of steel. The catch is in the execution. The moment that penalty is taken, all the normal rules of play kick back in. Your teammates can rush into the penalty area, defenders can close you down, and if you mess up the pass or your teammate fluffs the follow-up, you've just wasted the most guaranteed scoring opportunity in football. It's the kind of rule that exists in theory, but hardly anyone dares to use in practice. Because turning a 75% chance of scoring into a risky team play takes either genius-level confidence or complete madness. There have been famous moments when players tried this. Johan Cruyff pulled it off in 1982, laying it off to a teammate who passed it right back for the finish. Thierry Henry and Robert Pires tried it for Arsenal in 2005, but completely blew it and gifted the ball away. Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez nailed it in 2016, pulling off the trick to perfection while the crowd went nuts. For this to work, the pass has to be just the right weight and angle so the teammate can run onto it without breaking the rules. What matters is that the ball is struck correctly and that the receiving player follows the offside rules. If they enter the box too early or if the ball goes sideways or backwards, it's a violation. It might surprise people, but even though this trick is legal, most players stick to the normal direct shot. Passing risks confusion, interceptions, or just plain embarrassment. Still, the rule's clear. Penalty kicks don't have to be shots. They can be passes, as long as they're smart, controlled, and forward. The craziest part is that the goal still counts exactly like a normal penalty, no matter who finishes it off. It's rare, but the rule keeps this cheeky option alive. Indirect free kick in the penalty area. This rule creates those crazy moments when everyone in the stadium expects a penalty, but the referee signals something completely different. Most fouls inside the box automatically trigger a penalty kick. That's football's basics, but certain infractions break the pattern, earning only an indirect free kick right there in the heart of the penalty area. No clean shot at goal, no dramatic one-on-one duel with the keeper, just a packed wall of desperate defenders and an attacking team trying to solve an impossible puzzle in the tightest space on the pitch. This situation typically arises from technical violations rather than physical fouls. Think dangerous play without contact. illegal back passes to the goalkeeper, or keepers holding the ball beyond the time limit. Fans hear the whistle blow inside the box and immediately start pointing at the penalty spot, only to see the referee's arm shoot straight up in the air. The universal sign for an indirect kick. What makes this so wild is the setup. The defending team crowds the goal line, sometimes cramming all 11 players inside the 6-yard box. Attackers huddle around the ball like they're plotting a free kick routine from a spy movie. The first touch has to be a pass, not a shot, which leads to some weird attempts like little taps, quick flicks, or rehearsed plays that almost never go as planned. If it works though, it's pure chaos. A short pass, a thunderbolt strike, and maybe a ball flying into the top corner with everyone diving at once. If it doesn't, defenders swarm the ball instantly, and the chance is wasted in about 3 seconds. Referees stick to the rule, no matter how awkward it looks. Indirect free kicks inside the box are incredibly rare, but they've created some legendary scenes. Fans love them because they feel like a glitch in football's code. A moment where the usual script flips. Players, on the other hand, often look completely unsure of what to do, since it's not something they practice every week. Refs try hard to explain it clearly, but the sight of 20 players jammed around the goal mouth speaks for itself. No endless reviews, no second chances. Just football rolling along in the middle of a total tactical scramble. It's rare, but when it happens, it's absolute chaos. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to explore the channel for more footy content.